So as you know, the other day, because I saw you, well, we did a Q&A at one of them. I emceed a couple of events for Daniel Bell-Drummond, the Kent club captain. It's his testimonial year this year. We did a dinner with Ed Smith on the Tuesday, and then there was an All-Stars, Kent Legends All-Stars game versus the Gravesend, which is basically ex-Kent as well team. Sam Billings played in it, Joe Denley, amongst others. That was good fun. It led me to think about testimonials in general, because I remember you saying to me before, I think 2017 or so, the laws or the rules from the tax office changed on testimonials. Ed had his in 2005 or 6, didn't he? And did pretty well out of it. And, for those who don't know what a testimonial is, because they seem to be, I don't know if they're just a very English thing. I mean, they have to have them in Australia or South Africa or other cricket playing nations, but we have them here in football and rugby league, rugby union, and cricket as well. Effectively, they're a reward, aren't they, for long service? It's 10 years, I think, in cricket, isn't it?
Roughly, yeah. Yeah, no,
Roughly 10
exactly.
years.
They used to, yeah, a bit like a long service thing. So first of all, it used to be called a benefit year, and it was a recognition of your service to the county, and it was generally 10 years after receiving your county cap. So
Right. Okay.
you'd have to break your way into the first team. Then you would have to prove yourself with performances, and then you'd get your county cap, and then you'd need to keep playing, and then that generally took you to the end of your career. And then around in your last year or two, you'd be awarded your benefit, which was designed to help you with career transition, because cricket isn't paid the way football is. So cricketers then would get the opportunity to spend a year fundraising for themselves to help them with career transition. And that, so that would quite often mean maybe they could pay off their mortgage, and then if they needed to re-educate, or they needed to give themselves time to get, to find a job, it was there to do that. So that's fundamentally how that worked. And you're right, the tax office changed it. And I think around sort of, where these footballers would have a testimonial night and make £1 million, cricketers were never in those realms. But so the tax office looked at it, and I think it's capped at £100,000 tax free. Anything over that, you start to pay tax on. But you've got to get to 100,000, and it's tough work. You have different approaches to it. You have some guys who see it as a real, it's something they really invest themselves in, and it's their opportunity. And so that they're a few years out, they're thinking about it. It's all about networking and connecting with people. So when you put these events on, and there's no limit on events, you can run as many events as you want. In the old days, the benefit guys would be running, several a month. They'd be going around, whereas it definitely has filtered out more. And so you're looking now to sort of be strategic, to have bigger events that, in a way that you're making the most out of them. But around that, I always thought I liked the ones which sort of the members could come along to. And so you're then also strategizing the different layers. Who am I targeting for this event? Okay, it's a local. I did a wine tasting night one night where it was, people came in, and so that was a relatively cheap ticket, but it was somewhere where I'd mix with them. And then you build it up to a potential, maybe a London dinner or something like that, where you're targeting a few bigger hitters, and that's more of a lucrative evening. So it's not straightforward, and you have to put the work in if you want the rewards.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, as you said, it's dinners, it's golf days, it's auction, it's sponsored events, that sort of type stuff. But, and originally it was designed to give cricketers who, as you said, weren't as well paid, that financial security after their career has ended. But things have changed, right? Like everything, they were invented in the day where there wasn't any franchise cricket. And nowadays players are, central contracts, franchise cricket, they're earning a lot more than they were, even when you played. So do you think testimonials are still relevant in today's world?
Less and less. I think for one, you're potentially getting less and less players getting to the point where they can be awarded one because, like I say, because of franchise cricket, and I'd say it's based around red ball cricket. That's where you get your honour, because that tradition of, like we see Test cricket as pinnacle, county saw your red ball play as the pinnacle. So there's less and less players doing that time as a red ball player before, with franchise, they're going off and ducking out a red ball and going traveling around the world. So I think there'll be a natural filtration of it probably coming to an end anyway, over
Okay.
the next, who knows, five or so
Yeah.
years.
Because the paradox is that the players who need it aren't as well known as the players who don't need it, because those franchise guys traveling around the world earning wads of cash, but could also have have a benefit year as well, a testimonial year as well, and they can rely on their franchise mates who are also well known to help them to pull off, less events but bigger events. Whereas someone who's just has been a county pro and might have played one or two franchise tournaments or certainly plays in the Blast has got to work really hard to earn that money and rely a lot on his mates who are playing around the world in his franchise. It seems to be that there's a have and haves not developing in cricket as far as the testimonials are concerned, and now that is going to end up being unfair.
I get it. Yeah, absolutely. That, yeah, it's all about connection. So if you have been a franchise player and you've been smart and clever with it, and you're a good guy, where, and people are willing to do, because that's stuff for you. Because that's the other thing, is you need people willing to give up their time for you. Much like you and I did for DBD last week.
Yeah.
That was an event where, you know, I got approached, even earlier in the year. I said, Deebs, if there's anything you need me to do, just message me. And, it's that sort of goodwill. And it turned out that, that was the event that he'd earmarked, that could I help him out with. And that's what it's here. And if you've got rock stars that you can approach, if I go back to it, what you were talking about, Freddie, Freddie had one, Battersea, where Elton John showed up, and that's the level.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
I'm not, and it's who you've got in that contact book. And I know we'll probably talk about it, but Sam Billings is likely to be the next one getting his testimonial for Kent. Now his book's going to be rock stars. He's not necessarily going to be going and doing a cheese night in the Cowdrey stand at Canterbury. He's going to be looking at bigger and probably less, but bigger ones. Whereas Daniel Bell-Drummond, I know that a pub put on a quiz night for him recently. So that's the sort of things you're looking at, is what's that. But so it's who you can call upon, and what you've got in the background, how good at you've been at collecting auction items and all that sort of stuff, raffle. That's what you've got to be thinking of as you lead into your benefit year.
Since you mentioned Sam Billings, yeah, he's potentially got one next year. I mean, for somebody like him, he's more likely to be in the 3 or 4 major events across a year category, so all-star matches, and then he is, cheese tasting in the Cowdrey stand. But um, do you? Let's have some idea. Actually, before we have some ideas, got a question. I don't think I know the answer to this because I only just thought of it. But do you have to have them all the events here? So for Sam, for example, could he say, right, well, I've played for this Australian, he's played for 3, I think, Australian big bash franchises, he can go and do one in Brisbane and couple in one in Sydney type thing. Do you have to do them all here, or can you do them overseas as well?
No, I don't know. There's no restrictions. I know that. Well, and as well, players have had them overseas, in
Oh yeah,
Dubai
I did one.
generally. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
forgot that bit.
you forgot
Yeah,
about that, didn't you?
answers my own question.
But
Yeah,
so,
yeah. That's what I did Mel
yeah,
Loy's years ago.
it
Yeah.
it's generally in your, it's generally in England. But someone like Sam, you could argue that Sam could do one in India. At his at franchise and tap up his IPL mates.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could go to Melbourne, or wherever, somewhere that he's got connection, get people in the room, because that's what it's about. People will pay tickets to experience what you're putting on, in terms of, if you can get some big names up for a Q&A, like, you know, bigger than me and Ed Smith, that, that's that's what people then will fork out their hard-earned cash. So, in London is an interesting, because there's all sorts of stuff going on in London all the time, isn't there?
Yeah.
And so how do you make it different? And that's the key. How do you make your event different? And I know before we started recording this, I spoke to you about how, quite a number of years ago, Matthew Fleming was able to lean on the Fleming name and the Bond Association, and he put on a James Bond themed dinner in the middle of London. He had Bond cars there. He had a casino set up, but I didn't go. But all accounts, it was amazing. He was able to get Bond memorabilia, all that sort of stuff. So that's your point of difference. So then people are going to, of course, they're going to want to go to that. I think Fred's a massive attraction currently. So if you
Yeah.
can put something on where Fred's going to come and speak, in India, if Sam Billings could get Virat Kohli or someone like that to do something for him, and then in Australia, if Sam could get some of the Australian legends, and people are going to come and be at your event. So that's the thinking that you go into it. You have your golf days where people like their golf, but to fill out a room of
Yeah.
300 people paying good money, you have to, as the individual, and it was something I was always very mindful of when I had my benefit year in 2012. I wanted everyone to come and feel that they had value for money, and they left feeling entertained. And so
Do you reckon,
that for me is something I always have to think about.
do you reckon you need the Indian players to make any cash?
No, no. Into what you mean, to do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
If you don't think so. You don't think that if Virat, if he said, right, okay, listen, Sam, what do you want to do? Let's do one here, one in India, one in Australia. I'll do all three. The chance of Sam making more cash with Virat towing along, you got to pay Virat.
Yeah.
Yeah, is going to be a lot greater than if it was, for example.
Yeah, because again, tapping into the Indian community here in the UK, they would, you could probably fill out a room 3
And
nights in a row. So
even in the States,
that's the key.
Yeah, well, it's big money, having that, and there are things that we're trying to think of ideas also, like having a Netflix style documentary where, his benefit year sort of follows him around the world, playing and doing his dinners and stuff. And there's probably a documentary series and that they can have. I think some of the thinking around testimonials does need to change. You cited Freddie getting Elton John, and you've got Matthew Fleming with his Ian Fleming connections. But I think someone like a Daniel Bell-Drummond probably, and sometimes do the character and sometimes do what, maybe the thought around the committee and stuff, just probably don't think big enough. That's you. Probably don't think big enough in terms of what is capable, what the potential is for these sort of type of things.
Yeah. It's difficult though. It comes down to the nature of the person as well. Daniel was
Yeah.
a very quiet
Yeah.
guy, and so I imagine he hasn't found it this particularly easy this year to go and approach people to ask for that. Sam Billings is the complete opposite,
Yeah, I know.
and
Did the Q&A on Thursday.
yeah. And so for Daniel doing it, very much in Kent, sort of, it's hard and it's difficult for someone like that to do it. People are going to go, oh, what an unbelievable opportunity it is, but it also comes with the caveat that you've got to put yourself out. And for Daniel, putting himself out of his comfort zone of standing up, ringing up people to say, listen, I've got a dinner at the brewery in Faversham. You know, these are the speakers. Do you fancy coming along and getting a table? People will react to that,
Yeah.
and because people want to then see you. So Sam Billings will have that pull, and it's a different sort of stratosphere. But for your general county pro who, I'm going to put Daniel. Daniel, he's done some good things, but there's someone like that. It's hard work to who you have on your committee, everything like that. But it's a wonderful opportunity, and like the old adage, you get out of it what you put into it.
I
If you
think,
work hard and if you treat it as that,
yeah,
you'll do well.
I think that's the thing. Daniel's played over 400 games for Kent, for Birmingham Phoenix, and London Spirit. Across that period, he would have come across some real characters and stuff. But as you say, it's a case of the person himself. If he's not comfortable with going out and approaching, then you can't change that, right? And you can appoint somebody to go and do that for you, but it's not the same, is it? If he's played with, I don't know, pulling the Pat Cummings and pulling a name out the hat. I don't know if you play with him or not. If Daniel phoned Pat Cummins and said, "Listen, man, I've got a testimonial. Are you going to be in London anytime soon?" And he says yes. Will you come and do a Q&A? And Pat says yes. That's likelier than Pat giving me his number or Daniel giving me Pat's number and me calling Pat. It's going to be, I'll see, mate. I don't know. There's that, isn't there? So you have got to put yourself out, I guess. So when we put clips of this out on social media and tag Sam Billings, mate, there's no charge for our free consultancy for your testimonial next year, mate. You can have all those ideas for free, but I do think that testimonials, if they do last, um, time, I guess, then I think they do have to change, and I think they'll become more professional, if anything, and actually become part of the event landscape as opposed to kind of where they are today, which is very much stuck in the times of the county pro and relying on that county network. I think so. It'll be interesting to see where they go. Jonesy, no, that was an interesting discussion. It was not our normal sort of who's going to do what and hit this ball and all that jazz. So there you go, proving we can be vaguely intellectual if we want to. Well, you can anyway.
Vaguely.
Exactly.